This regular meeting of the Detroit Lake City Council is called to order. And at this time, I'd like to invite all of you to please stand and join me in reciting the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. The first item on the agenda is the approval of the minutes of the regular city council meeting, which was held on October 8th, 2019. Is there anyone in the audience or any member of the council that wishes to make any changes or additions or corrections to the minutes? Hearing none, I would entertain a motion for their approval.
Approve the minutes.
Motion's been made and seconded to approve the minutes. Discussion? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the motion carries. The consent agenda is before the council, and all items with an asterisk are considered to be routine by the city council and will be enacted by one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless a council member or a citizen so requests, in which event the item will be removed from the general order of business and considered separately in its normal sequence on the agenda. Is there anyone in the audience or any member of the council that wishes to either add or remove an item from the consent agenda? Hearing none, I would entertain approval of the consent agenda.
So move.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to approve the consent agenda as printed. Discussion? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. At this time, I will adjourn the regular meeting and call to order a public hearing to receive public comments on the matter of annexation of a 217.8 acre tract of land in Detroit Township and zoning the tract R2 1 and 2 family residential at Highway 59 North and Willow Springs Road. And I will call on our Community Development Director, Larry Remen, to give the council a preface of this matter.
Thank you, Mayor. This particular annexation will be handled by state law with an area that is 100% surrounded by land within the city. There is a question about a house near Highway 59, whether that is actually 100% surrounded. So we will continue with the annexation, and that will be resolved between the city and the state of Minnesota prior to second reading of the ordinance. We're also going to ask the state to defer annexation until March 3rd, or until after the March 3rd primary election, because it's required that annexations be finalized at least 60 days prior to an election. If we tried to rush this along and get it completed early in January, it makes some administrative issues and also it's very confusing, so we're going to delay that until after the March 3rd primary. That gives us until August until the next election.
Okay, I know there's a number of people here that are here for this matter, and in order to keep things moving along in an orderly manner, I think what I'll do is I'll first ask for questions about the project or the annexation, and then after we've had a time to ask questions, then I would open it up for any comments that folks might have. So questions first, and then your opinions or comments in the second phase. So are there any questions about what Larry explained, or any questions about the technicality? Yes, sir.
Will you actually sit back here? I didn't really hear anything that Larry said.
Okay, Larry, would you repeat it with the mic? Sorry about that.
Yes. Due to the primary election, we are going to...
Can you hear now? Still not loud enough.
Okay. Due to the primary election, we're going to request that the state not finalize the annexation of this area until after the March 3rd primary election. This annexation is taking place under state law that allows cities to annex areas that are 100% surrounded. There is one house on Highway 59 where it's questionable whether it's 100% surrounded. We're working that issue out with the state, and we will have that issue resolved prior to the second reading of the ordinance.
Okay, further questions? Just a question now. Yes, ma'am.
You're talking about March 3rd of next year? 2020. And I don't know if this is the appropriate time to ask this question, but a big concern of ours is the money. Is there a precedent or a law that says we can't be assessed a certain percentage of the value of our house or something?
I'm going to ask our city attorney to try to field that question. if you would, Charlie.
I'm not sure I understand the question, Deb. So
And
in an annexation, we end up having, and as part of this, Larry can go through what the numbers are, but the township continues to receive tax revenue that's generated from that area for a period of time. As far as when we talk about assessments, if you're talking about special assessments for a project, there isn't a project yet, and so those assessments wouldn't come about until after the project were completed. So when you talk about like a water and sewer project, so again, that might be a question to ask the engineer, but you're looking at several years before there would be an assessment for water and sewer, because at this point, there's a fair amount of lead time that's going to take to actually get that project up and going. Did that answer your
If I'm
question?
hearing correctly, I heard it's going to happen. It's a state law, it's going to happen. Am I hearing that correctly?
You mean that the annexation is going to happen?
Yes.
Yeah, state law allows a city to annex an area that is completely surrounded by, it's within the city, let's say an island. And at that stage, yes, the state law just says all that the city has to do is pass an ordinance to annex.
Then my question, I'll try to be more clear, is there a cap or a law or something that says we can't be assessed, because it's going to happen at a certain level of what our house is worth or something? Is there any precedent about that in the state?
For special assessments.
Benefit test for special.
Okay, yeah, well, all right, as far as, again, I'm sure I understand the question, but when there's a special assessment done for the project costs, okay, there is a state law that says that the cost to you, your assessment, cannot exceed the benefit to your property. Does that explain?
No. I mean, it doesn't tell me really.
I can't tell you what the cost is going to be. I can tell you that when the project is completed, state law allows the city to assess your property for the costs associated with the project up to the amount that the project benefits the market value of your property.
Which statute defines that?
Could we have one at a time, please?
Oh, I'm sorry.
And that's my question, but
It's in
Is there a
chapter
formula or something?
429 of Minnesota statutes.
One more time.
I'm going
Chapter
to
429.
let our city administrator add to what our city attorney just said, if you would, Kelsey.
Mayor and council, so tonight's public hearing is on the annexation. So we're annexing, as Larry explained, because by ordinance, we can do annexation because Willow Springs is 100% surrounded. We are not talking about an infrastructure project tonight. That will come later. And if there's going to be a project done in Willow Springs, there's going to be notice requirements, there'll be other public hearings, there'll be other informational meetings. And we'll talk about things like special assessments, we'll talk about improvement costs, we'll talk about what kind of improvements we want to have done in Willow Springs. Or maybe there's no improvements at all. Those are all things that are going to come later. I can tell you that in our capital improvement plan, we have infrastructure in Willow Springs in a plan for 2022. Okay, so again, we're looking at annexation, we'll go through this process. The annexation would likely take place in March of 2020. We'll still be paying township taxes in 2020. The city taxes would kick in 2021. And then possibly, you'd be looking at infrastructure project in 2022. But for that infrastructure project to occur in 2022, again, there's a variety of hearings and process that we have to go through before we can get to that point.
Where you will all get notice.
Okay, yes, sir, you had a question right here.
He answered my question.
Okay, further? Yes, sir.
My name is Chuck Fritz. I live at 18244 Park Drive. I got two questions, but the first one is, how did we become an island surrounded by city property? Was it not an annexation?
That took place because several annexations have taken place around you, and so you are 100% surrounded.
Okay, so we are an island because you annexed everything around us. I understand that. That makes sense. I'm going to receive a tax increase of 34%, according to discussion I had with Mr. Rem.
And this is a question now, right?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
Could you please explain to me how I'm going to benefit from this as a property owner?
Okay. The benefit that you receive as a resident of the city of Detroit Lakes is that you would, instead of having the sheriff taking care of your legal issues, you would have the police departments, so you would have,
Shift. How do
you would
I
have local patrols doing that. The city would then also be plowing your area.
And it's being plowed now by the township again.
Correct.
How would I benefit? That's my question.
Correct. You also benefit from all of the other rights that you have as a citizen of Detroit Lakes to use the infrastructure that the city of Detroit Lakes has. You benefit from the parks. You probably benefit from that already, but you're just not paying the taxes for some of these benefits that you already maybe receive, so.
I'm going to have the city administrator add to that if he would.
I think Larry summarized that. I think your question is, what do you see tangible benefits? So let's talk about what does your township taxes pay for? It pays for road maintenance and fire protection is basically what you
And
get
share
on the taxes.
patrol.
So your city taxes will do the same thing. We'll again do road maintenance. I've heard from others. Hopefully we can do snow removal and stuff maybe better than the service you were getting before. Again, we'll provide fire protection, but if you look at the laundry list of services the city provides, in a lot of ways, you are probably already getting them, you're just not paying for them. Everything from 24-hour police protection. If you have a call right now in Willow Springs, there's a good chance that we're responding and not the county. Again, you're not seeing that change, but you're not paying for that city police protection, which is a big cost to the city. A lot of services, economic development. The employment and retail options that you see here in Detroit Lakes come with the cost that city taxpayers help contribute towards. So, if you are working in the city or shopping in the city, or if you're enjoying any of the amenities we have of the parks, Detroit Mountain, Community Center, the library, Holmes Theater, the golf course, Washington Ball Field, Snappy Park, those are the things that your taxes go towards funding. Granted, you might be getting those benefits now, but you're not paying for them.
Will you take care of my beaver problem?
I don't know how to respond to that.
Just a point of where the Pelican River Watershed will pay for beaver pelts. You just need to contact
That's in
them.
the dispatcher, that is.
You actually already paid for that, the watershed charges you for that.
Question.
Okay, all right, let's continue with the questions, please. Any further questions? Yes, sir.
So I thought of this as this gentleman was talking. With the annexation, will anything change with like fire protection, like ISO ratings or anything else that would benefit our insurance rates at all?
I used to have my insurance license. I think it does, maybe one notch, doesn't it?
Yes and no. Being in the city does provide you a higher ISO rating. A big part of that also deals with water supply. So being annexed alone, I'm not sure what type of ISO bump you'll have just by being annexed, but if you get annexed and eventually get city services and have fire hydrants, then that would bump up your ISO rating.
Further questions? Yes, sir. In the
I
back.
live in the first house on Willow Springs Road, and when they put the lines in for the jail, we had a fire hydrant put in our ditch there, and we did get a discount on insurance from having that hydrant sitting.
Okay,
So
thank you for
I can't tell you how much, but we did.
further questions. Yes, sir.
Does, if we get annexed and there's improvements to things like infrastructure and things like that, does that tend to have a positive effect on home values, resale values?
I would say yes. Kelsey, Larry, do you want to add to it?
Our history has been that when we have annexed and put in city sewer services, that the property values have increased.
Further questions? Okay, if there's no more questions, I would open it up for any comments you might have. If you're for the project, against it, or any other comments. And if, at this time, if you would come to the podium, if you do have a comment, and we'd like to get your name and address for minutes. So if there are any comments, I would open it up for those at this time. Okay, hearing none, that public hearing is closed. And I would defer to the CDC, Community Development Committee Chairman Dan Winter. Dan?
Thank you, Your Honor.
Yeah, you're welcome.
So we did review this last Thursday at the Community Development Committee meeting and discussed several of the issues that came up already. We reviewed ordinance 456 for the annexation of this 217.8 acre tract in Detroit Township and determined that it made sense to zone it R2, 1 and 2 family residential. And CDC recommended approval and I so move.
Second.
The motion has been made and seconded to give first reading to ordinance 456, annexing a 217.8 tract of land. I won't go through the whole description. That's the Willow Springs area. Discussion by the council?
Well, Mayor, I just would add one thing to what Kelsey was saying about all the different services in the city. If any of you have noticed, we've now done a multi-use trail from basically Highway 34 up Richwood Road, across Tower Road, down 59, and we're now going to connect that across just south of where Willow Springs is back over. So it'll be a nice loop there, and it's going to go through a very scenic area, in my opinion. Just is it by the Alliance, Community Alliance Church there, right?
Anyway, north of the graveyard.
So a multi-use trail through there, that's something that is not out there now. There's also been trails that have been built on the north side of town along 34. So hopefully those are benefits that folks will be able to participate in that, is part of the city.
Further discussion by the council? Ron?
Well, I just want to comment because I know all of you are concerned about what the cost actually is going to be. And the first step here is tonight is to have you annexed. But then our city engineer will go to work and he will tell exactly for all of you, based on how much frontage you have, what it's going to cost for your streets and your roads, for your sewer and your water. And so you'll get those costs. We're not trying to hide anything from you. And you'll also will find out from the county what your taxes will be for being in the city. So that information will come, and we're not trying to keep from it. We just have to go through this process. So, because we know that is a big concern, and we've been talking about this for a long time, and we're trying to get it done the right way. We're watching the cost and stuff just to find out where we're at. So we're going to get you all that information, and we're not. I wish we could have it here tonight, but we have to go through the first steps first, so it will be coming.
Further comments? I just want to clarify now, we're going to give first reading tonight. Larry, is second reading going to be next month, or will it be wait till March?
It will be at the December meeting, and then we will send it to the state and ask them to defer final.
Okay. So this will be on our agenda again next month for second reading and adoption of the ordinance tonight. We're going to give first reading to the ordinance. And if there's no further discussion, I believe there's a motion, a second on the table. All in favor of the motion, say aye. Aye. Opposed? That motion carries. Thank you for coming, you folks from Willow Springs tonight. I believe the public hearing under B is going to be deferred. Yes,
That
is
is
that correct?
There's a mistake in the legal description, so that will be deferred.
Okay, Kelsey, will you help clear the room back there? Folks, if I could have the discussion that you want to have amongst yourselves out in the lobby, I'd appreciate it. Thank you. Too early for a potty break, isn't it?
Once we get finished with all the public hearings.
Then we'll maybe need one. Kelsey, get those people out of here. Now he's part of the discussion.
Have it cue me in. You don't have to give me one of these. I'll just start teasing
people. Okay, I think it's quiet enough. We can continue here. As Larry said, we're going to defer the hearing on 4B. There's no action on that. So at this time, I will call to order a public hearing to receive public comments on the proposed amended assessments for street, sidewalk, stormwater, sanitary, sewer, and water main improvement for the project for West Avenue and Willow Street West. And again, I'll call on city staff. John, are you prepared to?
I am, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, go ahead.
Thank you. How many folks are here for the West and Willow assessment hearing, just so I know? Okay. I'm going to try to kind of blaze through this fairly quickly because frankly, it's for the most part, a giant repeat of the assessment hearing that we had prior, so just bear with me. But why we're here tonight, next slide. Again, talking about the Willow Street and West Avenue project that we got very close to finishing this past summer. Why are we here? We've produced an amended assessment roll. We adopted a roll originally in, I think it was April of this spring. The amended rolls was created to address some grant funding that the city was fortunate to get. So we had to incorporate those grant funds into how the project was financed and how it was assessed. And also there were some adjustments relative to the project scope and some things that we did out there as part of the project. So I'll go over briefly what the project included, then get right into the project costs and the special assessments, and we'll have time for questions and answers after that. Again, the project locations, West Avenue, including some of the adjacent side streets, Main, State, Grant, and then Willow Street from Washington Avenue to Jackson Avenue. Project background, this thing's been in the works for a number of years. It was on the city's CIP for probably 4 or 5. We started the preliminary engineering back in March of 17 and some preliminary design. Had several different public hearings, informational meetings, things like that. Ultimately opened the bids in March of this year. Had our assessment hearing, as I indicated, in April. Went through construction this past summer, and that lands us where we're at tonight, followed by a little bit more construction early next spring. So existing conditions and project need, again, I'm going to kind of just gloss over this. The streets were in very, very poor condition. Both West Avenue and Willow Street were. We had some of the oldest utilities that we had in town. Some of them were about 70 years old. We had some critical utilities over on West Avenue. We have a trunk sewer that runs down West Avenue that carries about 70% of the city's wastewater, crossing underneath the CP rail tracks and things like that. And we had some stormwater issues as well. So those were the things that we were going after. In a nutshell on what did we do? It was a full reconstruction of the streets and utilities in the areas that I've mentioned. As far as water main goes, we replaced all the water mains with 8-inch PVC water mains, replaced all the fire hydrants, the isolation valves, things of that nature. Sanitary sewer, we replaced all that with PVC pipe ranging in size from 8-inch to some very large 30-inch pipe that I mentioned going down West Avenue, replaced all the manholes. Got underneath the railroad tracks in a number of locations and got those critical crossings replaced. And then we also did the Jackson Avenue lift station at the east end of Jackson Avenue. Along with the sewer and water, we did the service lateral replacements. Those are the lines that extend from the mains out to the edges of everybody's property. Generally speaking, it's new plastic 1-inch water services and then PVC 4-inch sewer services with cleanouts, and we stop basically at the edge of the property or the outside edge of the right-of-way with those replacements. And then any replacement from that point to the home or the building is the responsibility of the property owner. Storm sewer, we replaced for the most part all the storm sewer that's in the project area with new concrete pipe. We added some capacity hydraulically to the storm sewer system where we had some previous flooding. We lacked some inlet capacity over on West Avenue where we really just didn't have enough inlets to capture stormwater and things of that nature. So that whole system was replaced. And then street, I'm not going to go through these in great detail here. West Avenue, it's a brand new street. It's urban section ranging from 40 feet wide to 36 feet wide. Some of the side streets that are dead end or very low volume were replaced with a narrower 28-foot wide. We have sidewalk running throughout both the project areas, but on west, both sides of the street, kind of south of Holmes, and then one side of the street north of Holmes. And we also did a mill and overlay on a portion of Main Street from Holmes Street to West Avenue. Willow Street, very similar urban section with curb and gutter, 36 to 44 feet wide, depending on where you're at. 6-foot sidewalk with turf boulevards on both sides between Roosevelt and Washington, and then just the south side east of Roosevelt. I'm going to breeze through these. This just was outlining some of the other street improvements that we made. On Willow, we did add some medians and some turn lanes at some critical intersections, including McKinley, at Washington, and Roosevelt. We removed the stop condition at Lincoln Avenue, added some crossing nodes for trail crossing that was constructed. Next slide. Willow Street, I mentioned the raised median at M&H to prevent some of those left-hand turns that had an impact on that intersection and the functionality of that. We will be doing some more improvements, just as a heads up, on Washington and Willow at that intersection next year. That intersection will get rebuilt with some new signals and things of that nature, so we'll kind of be back into that area next year. And we constructed a multi-use trail down Lincoln Avenue, connecting a couple of prior pieces of trail that were constructed. This was a gap that was missing between Willow and Oak Street. Next slide. So project costs, where did we land? Again, not going to read each of these lines. What the takeaway here is, the project costs were very, very, very close to what we presented in April at the assessment hearing. So the project costs as a whole haven't really changed. We've got a lot of costs in streets, well over $3 million in street, followed by sanitary sewer, about $1.3 million, water mains just under $1 million, and then some other items up there, getting us to a project cost of about $7.8 million. Project financing and assessments, this is the part that has changed since the last meeting. So the project's going to be financed and funded by a combination of what you see here. City utility funds, general tax levy, something called municipal state aid funds. That's the city's allocation of the gas tax that we all pay at the pump. We get a small slice of that as a municipality. That goes to pay for some of the stormwater and street improvements. We also applied to Minnesota Public Facilities Authority for financial assistance on both the water and then the wastewater system, so the sanitary sewer and the water main. There's two separate programs there. We were fortunate to get both some grant and some low-interest loan directed at those sewer and water improvements. And then the balance of the project is funded by special assessments to adjacent and benefiting properties. The assessable costs are determined in accordance with the city's special assessment policy. We have a policy that spells out how we divvy out these project costs, project to project, to try to keep them consistent and equitable year to year. Back up one thing, Carrie. Sorry, I think I missed something there. Yeah. What's outside of the norm is that last bullet point, is we got a $2.2 million grant from PFA, what's called a WIF grant, or wastewater infrastructure grant. So that's grant money that we can use towards costs related to the replacement of the sanitary sewer system. So that could be the sewer pipe itself, or the cost of replacing pavement above those sewer pipes and things like that. So that's what we had to work through on this. Next slide. So an overview of the cost distribution of how this all shakes out. Sewer and water, we assess 75% of the standard utility main cost. So it's 75% of that cost to replace a standard water main or a standard sewer main. A standard water main is an 8-inch main. A standard sewer main is an 8-inch main. The city then assumes that remaining 25%. Any oversizing, like I said, we have some larger sewer mains, 30-inch sewer mains. The city's paying that cost from that 8-inch up to whatever size it might be. Looping, some unassessed areas, they pay for hydrant costs. And in the end, the way the grant got allocated, we ended up putting about $1.3 million towards the sanitary sewer replacement cost, which is the cost to replace the sanitary sewer. So that results in no assessment for the sanitary sewer replacement on this project. Service laterals are assessed 100% to each property. Street and sidewalk reconstruction, the policy is to assess 50% of a standard street replacement. A standard street's defined as a 36-foot wide street, a 5-ton design, and a bituminous surface. So the city assumes that remaining 50%, and then any oversizing, again, Willow Street, for example, is built to a heavier capacity because of the traffic and the type of traffic that's on there. The city assumes that cost for that additional structure. Any oversizing beyond the 36 feet, and then unaccessible areas. And in this situation, we applied just under $1 million of that grant towards the street replacement because we can relate some of the street replacement was a direct result of having to go down and replace sewer mains. So in effect, that reduced almost everybody's street replacement assessment. Street mill and overlay is assessed at 75%. Again, just about a block of that in this project. Next slide. City pays 100% of the costs related to multi-use trail on Lincoln Avenue, lift station force main replacement at the east end of Jackson Avenue, and they also pay for 100% of the storm sewer replacement. That comes out of the storm sewer utility fund, which we all pay a little bit on as part of our utility bill every month. So I know this probably is a little difficult to read, but everything I just said, this is just in a graphical format that shows what the state or the grant share of the project is in comparison to what the assessable share is of the project. So the message to take away here, I think, is we had about a $7.8 million project. Of that, just a little over $2 million was assessed, and the city as a whole, or the grant, is picking up about $5.8 million. So you play that into percentages, about 26% of the project cost is being assessed, and the city is paying about 74%. So once we have those assessable costs determined, that middle column in the last table, again, we go back to the assessment policy of how is that then allocated amongst all the properties that are adjacent to this project. Essentially, you take those assessable costs for each component. We figure out how many accessible units we have to come up with a rate per unit. So you find out how many front feet of accessible sewer we have. We divide that by the accessible cost. We come up with a rate per foot for the sewer and the water. So sewer and water are assessed on a front footage basis. It's generally the width of your lot. If it's a corner lot, your front is considered your short side. Average width is assigned to irregular shaped lots. Service laterals are assessed on an each basis. Again, street is the same thing. It's a front footage assessment. It's the dimension of so if you're a rectangular inside lot, interior lot, your front footage is the width of your lot. Corner lots, it's the dimension of your small side, and or half of the dimension of the longer side up to the first 150 feet. And you're only assessed for sides that are abutting the improvement on street improvements. And irregular shaped lots are given an average an average footage. So we apply all this. This is the table that changed the most other than the last one. These are the new rates once we applied that $2.2 million in grant. Street assessment for a standard residential street was $82 per front foot. For a commercial property, the standard street was $90. Low volume streets, the narrower streets coming off of West Avenue, were $63. Mill and overlay on Main, $36 a foot. Sanitary sewer, again, that went to zero because we used that grant to underwrite the cost of all of the sewer replacement. Service laterals for sewer, just under $2,000 a piece. Water mains, $41 a foot. And a water service is $2,300 a piece. So this table gives you a rough idea of what a typical lot looks like, depending on where you're at and the size of your lot. For a 50-foot lot, on West or Willow that had, street and utility improvements done, looking at an assessment of about $10,000. 100-foot lot, $16,000. Slight reduction if you're on a smaller side street, one of those dead-end streets off of West. 50-foot lots down to about $9,500. Mill and overlay, a 75-foot lot, $2,700. So the bottom line here is the grant resulted in, depending on your lot size and your situation, just sort of across the board, somewhere between a 22 and a 29% reduction in the project cost, which obviously that was great news when we got that. It saved about $878,000 was wrote out of the assessable share of the project, or a reduction of about 30%, and it reduced the city share as well. The city got some direct benefit out of this too, by reducing the city's cost by about $1.3 million. So some things on assessment terms and conditions. The assessments will be levied pending the council's adoption here this evening. Levied against property starting in 2020, so you would see this special assessment show up starting on your property taxes for 2020. Assessments are applied to taxes for a 20-year term at I think we nailed this down at 3%? Okay, I was wrong on this. 3% interest rate, not the 3.5% that I have on the screen. So a 3% interest rate over 20 years. That also is a direct result of some of the funding we received from Public Facilities Authority. That low interest loan carries through and lowers the interest rate that we apply to the special assessments. You can prepay all or a portion or none of your special assessments. It's just like any loan. Anything you pay up front is ultimately just going to reduce your principal and reduce those payments over the 20 years, save on some interest. I'm going to skip this in the interest of time, other than just to say the city does have a deferral policy for a very specific portion of the population. If you're disabled or elderly, fixed income, that sort of thing. The city does have a procedure and an application where you can apply to defer your assessments for an indefinite period of time. So if that's something of interest, just contact City Hall and they can help you with that. Those applications need to be put in by December 1, I should mention that. So quickly on construction, because I know it's weighing on some people's minds. Yes, they fell short. They didn't get as far done with the project as we wanted them to. To be perfectly honest, it wasn't for a lack of trying on the contractor's behalf. I was extremely pleased with this contractor. They tried very hard. They had the workforce, they had the equipment, they worked some weekends. And ultimately, Mother Nature just kind of beat us to the punch. Things got cold pretty quick, and the wet weather all through the summer wasn't a great deal of help. But had we had about another week and a half, I think they would have got it done. They didn't. We got all the underground utilities done. But there are about 3 blocks on West Avenue and some portions on State Street and Main Street that'll have to remain gravel through the winter. We just couldn't get those paved. The contractor will be diligent this spring in being there, blading, pumping, doing what they need to do to keep those passable. And then we will finish up some work right away in the spring with finishing that paving and that curb and gutter and sidewalk work that didn't get done. Then they'll move to the last or final lift of paving throughout the entire project. There's a final wear course lift of pavement that'll go down, and we'll have some turf restoration and things like that. So I think that's it.
Okay, are there any questions by anybody about the project? Or comments? If you have a comment, you can either ask a question or make a comment. Yes, ma'am.
I just want to say that you're right, the crew was really great. You could go out and talk to them, they were friendly, they were very helpful. It went well.
Thank you.
Thank you. We usually don't hear good stuff. So that's good to hear, thank you. Any other comments? If not, this public hearing is closed, and I would entertain a motion for approval of the amended assessment roll.
The Finance Committee reviewed this afternoon, and we moved the adoption of the amended assessment roll.
Motion's been made and seconded to approve and adopt the amended assessment roll for street sidewalk, stormwater, sanitary sewer, and water main improvement for the West Avenue and Willow Street West project. Discussion on the motion? John?
Mr. Mayor, there are 3 properties that we're going to withdraw from the revised roll. One of them is, I'll just give the addresses here, to 705 Grant Street.
Okay.
You're going to have to bear with me here. I meant to have all these. I need more.
Why don't we just amend the motion, the second, to exclude the 3 properties and per the city engineer,
Okay.
you'll identify them.
Yep, that's fine. They're the properties we discussed.
Identify them in the minutes if that would work, Charlie? No.
You got a person raising your hand. Yes,
Oh,
One question, when they finish up on the spring, since, like on my end, they're gonna, that dead end I have is gonna be closed off and we're gonna.
Yes.
Neighbor and I are gonna own it after that, after it's closed off. Are they gonna have another meeting once this is all done? Amend all that or whatever?
That's all been vacated already, so it's just, we didn't get to the point of building your driveways and sort of closing that off, but that is done.
Okay.
the legal part's done.
The legal part is done, the construction part is not.
Okay, so
Yes.
then they'll get with us in the spring, then with everything else?
Yep,
whatever.
that's correct.
So Madeline and Ron, are you okay to amend that motion to exclude those 3 properties?
Yes.
Just by way of measure, there are 3 properties that were not included in the original improvement hearing notices.
Okay. Very good.
One other question, I'm sorry.
Sure, go ahead.
I live on West Avenue. The question is I know the assessments are supposed to start on the taxes in 2020. Since that project isn't done, are they going to still start our assessments then, even though the project didn't actually get completed? Or is it possible to put it off until it is completed?
Kelsey, you want to field that question?
I can try.
John?
Yep.
I mean, I know they planned it being done, it just
The
didn't.
short answer is yes, the assessments will start. It's spread over a 20-year period, so, we're not asking you to pay all of that right now, next year. And it would be fairly typical for us on any sort of an improvement project like this, where at minimum, we wouldn't have the wear course done, maybe not some of the turf restoration. We go through the assessment proceedings, and then the next spring, they finish that up. So there's commonly some work left to do.
Okay. We have a motion, a second on the table. Further discussion by the council. Ron?
I just want to say thank you to the city staff and to the engineering department for coming up with this $2.2 million added grant money that we came up with. And that made a big savings, 22 to 29%, depending upon where your property was. And this is one of the oldest streets in Detroit Lake. Some of that street hadn't been done since late 40s and early 50s. And it needed to be done, and I think that the city and the engineering people did a great job in getting you the best street that we could have, and we got a great price at it. So I think you've got to feel good about getting a good bang for your buck on this one.
Okay, further discussion? All in favor of the motion, say aye. Aye. Opposed, that motion carries. At this time, I will call to order a public hearing to receive public comments on the proposed assessments for street, stormwater, sanitary sewer, and water main improvement project for Highland Drive, Randolph Road, and Lemon Road. John?
Thank you, Mayor. Same song, second verse. Is there anybody here from Randolph Road or Highland Drive?
Is there anyone here that's concerned about this public hearing?
Otherwise, I'm going to skip right ahead and just go through the assessment rates and...
Yeah, why don't you do that, because I don't think anybody's here.
Okay, keep going, Carrie, probably to the project costs. There we go. So on the screen is a summary of the project costs. You can see again the vast majority of the project costs is in the street. We had some minor, I guess I would call it in this case, sewer and water costs related to extending some of that infrastructure down the southern 500 feet of Highland Drive. But the bulk of this was street costs and stormwater costs related to Randolph Road. Next slide. I should mention the project costs came in basically right on target with what was budgeted at the time that we opened bids. Allocation on this project We did get a fair amount of outside funding on this project. Again, we were fortunate with some state and federal grants. We do have some city funds and some special assessments. The grant funds, by and large, are utilized for the street and the stormwater improvements on Randolph Road and a small portion of Highland Drive. We got about $1.3 million in Minnesota Highway Freight Program dollars that we had applied for. And then we also got about another $450,000 in a new program that MnDOT has called the Local Partnership Program. Those are local dollars that they're able to allocate to projects that are related or benefiting the trunk highway system. And this project was part of a larger project that is affecting the trunk highway system. So fair amount of dollars there from outside. The remaining dollars we had will special assess to some of the adjacent properties, primarily, you can go to the next slide, Carrie. Yeah, Randolph Road paid by 100%. Lemon Road, we paved that under this contract, I should mention. That cost was 100% assessed to the developer, being Bob Spielman, as part of his project. Next slide. 100% paid. Stormwater was 100% paid. 100% of the cost of this sewer and water was assessed. We again had some water mains down and sewer mains down the southern portion of Highland Drive. Those were assessed to adjacent properties. I would mention that there are some properties in this assessment roll that are in a postponed assessment roll. There's properties that are outside the city limits currently, so those assessments can't be levied right now. And we'll have to carry those until such time that those properties come in. Keep going, Carrie. This is how it shook out. $2.3 million project cost. We assessed a fairly small amount of this, $173,000, and the city and grant share of this being $2.1 million. I'm going to skip all of this. This is old hat for everybody here. There's the assessment rates for the project. Again, kind of an oddball one. There's really not a way to call it typical on this one, but for a 150-foot lot on Highland Drive that got new sewer and water, they're paying about $16,000 on this. Outside of that, it was an assessment for Lemon Road paving and a couple of sewer and water services at the very far east end of Randolph Road. So, terms and conditions will be the same as typical assessments spread over a 20-year period. Interest rate, I meant to confirm, 5.5% over a 20-year period. I think that's all I need to cover.
Okay, and again, there was no one here that had any concerns with this project, right, for assessment hearing? So that public hearing is closed, and I would entertain a motion to approve the resolution adopting the assessments.
The Finance Committee reviewed that this afternoon, and we moved to adopt the assessments for street, stormwater, sanitary sewer, and water main improvement project at Highland Drive, Randolph Road, and Lemon Road.
Second. Motion's been made and seconded to adopt the proposed, we're adopting the assessments for the Highland Drive, Randolph Road, and Lemon Road project. Discussion on the motion?
I have a question, Mayor.
Yeah, Bruce.
Why the spread between 3% on one project and 5.5% on the other?
Basically, the assessments have to be on a project-by-project basis. We can't take an average of our funding sources from past projects or other projects to come up with that assessment rate. So on the Weston Willow, our financing source is the PFA loan, which is at a 1% rate. We don't have the PFA loan available for the Randolph Road project, so it's conventional financing for Randolph Road. So that's why the rate's higher.
And that's we're required by state law?
Yeah, we can't.
Just seems a little unfair to...
Challenged if all of our projects are always around 5.5% to 6%, but then if we get money at 1%, we charge 5.5%, 6%. We can be challenged on this.
Further questions or discussion? All in favor of the motion, say aye. Aye. Opposed? That motion carries. Without objection by the council, I want to jump around and try to accommodate some of these other folks that are here this evening. So without objection, Bruce, can we go to item 6C? We've got some representatives from the Lakes Country Association of Realtors here.
6C, okay, thank you, Your Honor.
We don't want Patty to get up and drag this on for a couple hours, so. I'm sorry, Bruce, go ahead.
This is consideration approval of the placement of the kinetic structure donated by the Lakes Country Association of Realtors. I'm going to make a motion, Mayor, and then I'll provide a little explanation.
Okay.
So both the Park Board and the Public Works Committee have reviewed this, recommend approval, and I so move.
Second. Go ahead.
So this, what this is, and thanks to the generosity of the Lakes Area Realtors, and I don't know if somebody wants to stand up and speak for them, but this structure, and I'm not going to attempt to explain it, but it's going to be located on or overlooked by Highway 10. It's going to be 20 feet high, and both the Park Board and the Public Works Committee have reviewed this. It's a nice-looking structure. I think everybody agrees it's going to add, as Patty would say, some, what was the word you used? It added pizzazz to the city?
That sounds good.
Yeah, okay. So anyway, that's
It's gonna
the...
make you cry when you see it, that's what's gonna happen.
Anyway, the motion, I'm sorry, the motion should have included that the realtors are going to pay for both the structure and the installation, and I meant that to be part of my motion.
Okay.
That's all.
Okay. And you guys are going to do this in the spring?
Correct.
Right? Okay. Further discussion?
I think it was a great project they brought to the council. So thank you for doing that and stepping up and taking the initiative. Thank you.
So is there somewhere where somebody can go online and look at how this thing moves or whatever? Is there a YouTube thing or?
There is, initially we were holding off on any social media advertisements about this for your guys' approval today.
But you're going to get it out in the media? Okay, all
We'll
right.
make the community aware that the realtors are, and just to be clear, the local realtors are the ones providing the funding for this. It's a way of us establishing, giving back to the community that we've worked in for so many years.
Okay, thanks, Amber. Further discussion?
Well, once again, thanks to all the realtors for providing this, so we have something very nice in the lakefront to look at, especially at night when it's all lit up.
Very
Thank
good.
you.
Very good. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the motion carries.
Abstain.
Jay abstains, okay. Bruce, why don't you also take items 6I and 6J?
6I and 6J. Okay, the 6I is the consideration of event application for the 2020 Minnesota's SNICE Showcase, February 6th to February 19th, 2020. There's a layout in your packet if you've seen that. This is basically, and again, I might have someone from that committee explain a little bit more. This is going to be down by the pavilion as shown on your application. Anyway, the Public Works Committee has reviewed this, recommends approval, and I so move.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to approve the event application for the 2020 Minnesota's NICE Showcase, which will be February 6th, 2020 through February 19th, 2020.
And I think Terry Johnson was going to...
If you remember 2 years ago, we played with some ice. We brought 18,000 visitors into Detroit Lakes in February. We had so much fun that last year we played with ice and some lighting and really improved upon our technique and got local volunteers involved. So in 2020, we want to play with ice, lights, and more and more and more. So we're continuing to grow the Ice Palace, and then we're preparing for a really large Ice Palace in 2021 in honor of the 150th sesquicentennial of Detroit Lakes. So we have put in our application for 2020. We are planning an Ice Palace. Hans has unbelievable whole courtyard, and, you name it, from a moat and what your imagination could even think of and beyond for an ice palace and royal courtyard. We've got snow sculptures that we're involving even more schools into. We'd like to continue sledding, and then we've got a few surprises that we'd like to reveal to the public as we get developed. So we're growing this thing and making it hopefully a wow, and especially in February. Seems the perfect day as Detroit Lake froze over today, and we're asking you to support us.
So Hans, is it going to be a castle again? Is there going to be a throne, or what are you going to build this year?
Well, as I promised Kate Frank, the first year watching the demolition, she was teary-eyed and, chewing us up and destroying King Elizabeth's royal courtyard and palace. And I promise you that his throne would always come back.
Okay.
So yes, we will have an ice throne, and trying to answer a couple of the concerns with people wanting to be inside a palace, which you cannot be in, but we're going to surround them with the ice so that when you're on the throne, you actually visually see all the lights that are shining around you. We're incorporating the ice bridge, which is technically an optical illusion ice bridge, but it's a way to become more handicapped accessible, let the senior citizens or people who need assistance to get to the throne to experience it as others have in the past, and a way of controlling the crowds and the flow of people. So we're trying to address a bunch of those issues that we've learned over the years of how to improve upon the public experience with the lake and the ice, and overall what we're trying to do. Another thing we're doing this year that I just designed yesterday is I think it's WDAY has expressed a lot of interest of coming down and covering Detroit Lakes and this Polar Fest and the Ice Palace, and so we're going to sculpt a news desk. So there'll be a news desk down there for live broadcasting, and they'll be on board to come down here to experience Detroit Lakes and watch us idiots out there freezing. But again, like Carrie alluded to, we're trying to expand on it. We're bringing in more high schools that have showed interest in doing the snow sculptures. We're doing the luge hill. We got a couple surprises up our sleeves we're not going to unveil, but there'll be big wow factors. And again, we're just trying to get everybody out there on the lake and people in the Detroit Lakes to show that we are a vibrant community year-round.
Well, thank you for all your and your committee's work on this. It's a tremendous thing, so thank you.
Thank you to the city. It's a perfect partnership.
Yeah. And Carrie, the Parade of Lights parade is on the consent agenda, so unless you have anything to add, that'll automatically, it's already approved, I guess, right? So let's go back to item I then, Bruce.
Yes, I thought I made a motion already.
Was there a motion second?
Just have to vote on it.
Okay. Further discussion? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the motion carries. And also without objection, if we could move to item 5A, Dan Josephson. 5A, please.
5A is consideration of a first reading of ordinance 455, an ordinance amending the City of Detroit Lakes Code, Chapter 503A, Animals. Call upon, looks like Larry to explain this.
Okay, this ordinance is the ordinance that everybody calls the chicken ordinance, but it really is 503A, and it deals with animals. So there's some other things in here that we should also talk about. One of the things that we're doing is we're adding a definition of sterilized. We're also talking about amending subdivision 503.03 subdivision 1 to allow up to 3 dogs, cats, rabbits, or guinea pigs if they are all sterilized. So essentially our ordinance would stay the same. You're allowed up to 2 dogs, 2 cats, 2 rabbits, or 2 guinea pigs. Unless you have them sterilized, then you can have up to 3. And you can have 3 of each or 3 of any combination of those animals. This would change our ordinance. The way it is now, you have to come in and get special permission and a special license to have a 3rd dog or cat, and the fee is $150. This would do away with that, and we would have our line in the sand at 2 pets. Unless they're sterilized, then you could go to 3. Section 503.05 allows chickens by permit. You can have up to 4 hens. They must be confined in a coop. They're allowed on single-family lots in the R1, R2, RA district. The minimum lot size has to be 7,500 square feet. And then there's details about conditions for keeping chickens and conditions for having the coop and distances away from other structures. And then finally, section 503.06 addresses requirements for a dog run or enclosures. It allows them on a premises. It has to be 10 feet from all lot lines and 20 feet from any other structures except for the structure on the premises. So people can have a dog run that's attached to their house where their pet can go in and out of the house, because some people do that. So those are the changes in a nutshell, and that's all I have to say at this point.
Okay.
I'll make a motion.
Why don't we get a motion? Yep.
I would make a motion to approve first reading of ordinance 455, an ordinance amending the City of Detroit Lakes City Code, Chapter 503A, Animals.
Second.
The motion has been made and seconded to give first reading and adopt ordinance 455, an ordinance amending the City of Detroit Lakes City Code, Chapter 503A regarding animals. And if the first reading is approved, we would consider second reading at our December City Council meeting. Is there anyone in the audience that wishes to make any comments about whether or not the City Council should give first reading to the ordinance? Is there any discussion by the council regarding giving first reading to the ordinance? Jay?
My concern is if we're going to move from the 2 dogs, or 2 dogs, cats, rabbits, guinea pigs. I mean, right now, we have a discussion of whether or not there's been any violations, any police calls, or any of those things. So what happens if we all of a sudden allow 3 of these animals and we get a lot of complaints? I mean, obviously with another animal that's possibly outside all day barking, this can be negatively affect neighbors. And so is there any recourse for someone for allowing these 3 pets? And if someone gets so many violations, what do you do at that point?
Kelsey? Go ahead, Charlie.
Go ahead.
So there would be a permit for that third animal, but they still have to abide by all of our other animal rules and nuisance rules. So if they have a dog that's habitually barking, you know, there's other ordinances that would prohibit that we could try to enforce. Granted, you won't have this licensure that you could possibly revoke, but you would have other ordinances that you could still enforce for our normal administrative penalties or misdemeanors, those type of things.
And which we commonly do enforce, so it's nothing out of the ordinary.
Nice.
Even with this permit process, we end up doing those other enforcement mechanisms.
Nice.
Okay, further discussion by the council.
Yeah, go ahead, Ron.
Okay, when we first started this here, we've been talking chickens for quite some time, and I did bring up, I went to the Center of Disease Control, and they had an article about backyard chickens, and they basically said that you shouldn't have chickens inside a city, they should be out in the country. And this is since the year 2000. They've had 4,794 people with chicken illnesses, all types of chicken illnesses. They've had 894 people have been hospitalized, and they've had 7 deaths. 70 people have had salmonella from it. Now, we can kind of laugh about that, say that can't be true, but it is true. And I went and I re-looked at it again here this weekend, and it's something to really think about. And then I look here that item B, it says any farm animal. Well, you know, are we going to be, what are we going to do when somebody says they want to have pot-bellied pigs? And the big deal across the country right now is goats. Are we going to allow goats to come in, and we're going to have pigs coming into town? And because it says item B, any farm animals or poultry. And I'm just concerned about that we're going to, it's not probably the atmosphere that I want to have in my neighborhood or in my city. And I think we've got to be concerned about the issues with chickens. And the other meeting that we had the other night, one of the ladies, she said, there's 4 of us here tonight wanting chickens. She said, we're probably the only 4 people in town that want to have chickens. And I thought to myself, well, if we only have 4 people that want to have chickens, why would we even want to change ordinance for 4 people that want to have chickens? I mean, it's just, if I want to have a hippopotamus, would you let me have one in town? I'm just saying that we have to look at this because it's going to have long-term effects for our city. And we're talking about lot sizes. We started out at 10,000 square feet. Now I think we ended up talking 7,500 square feet. You have to have 20 feet on each side of the chicken coop. And I mean, you get to the point where who's going to monitor all this stuff? But I really can't support this, and I'm not going to support it. But I just think that we as council have to look at the long-term effects of what we're going to do here on this, and for the betterment of the city and betterment for our neighbors and betterment for our kids. I'm concerned about the health effects.
Okay, thank you, Ron.
I got something. Ron, item B that you're quoting here says any farm animals or poultry except chickens are permitted under section 503.05. we're not allowing goats, we're not allowing hippopotamuses, we're not allowing
not yet.
anything but chickens, dogs, cats, guinea pigs, and rabbits by this ordinance. We're not allowing any of those other things. Anybody else who wants to have a goat in the city can come and ask for a goat. I highly doubt we would allow that, but that's for a future discussion. I don't think we're asking for the moon here to allow 4 chickens, hens, no roosters. It's not a horrible health situation. We've got dogs, cats, wild animals that are within our city limits right now that we don't control. We don't control the geese. We got issues with geese and coots on the lake. We have all sorts of wild animals that we don't control, and I don't see having 4 chickens as being a bad option. It's giving a place where we control that. We did move from 10,000 feet down to 7,500 feet at the committee level because that's the minimum lot size for single-family residence within the city. We're controlling the situation, not just hands-free, go out and kill people with chicken illnesses or anything else. So I'm in favor of the revisions to the ordinance to allow up to 4 hens and make the changes to the number of sterilized animals that you can have without coming to the city council.
Bruce, thanks, Dan. Bruce, I think you had a comment, didn't you? Or do you-
Sure,
maybe not?
yeah, I mean, I'm happy to address, I'll try to keep my comments short, but one thing to be aware of, the city a couple of months ago passed this Green Steps program that we're trying to achieve. And if you read that, there's like 3 or 4 items under the Green Step program, and one of them is to have, chickens. I mean, they encourage right in there, they say chickens. They encourage us to have things like farmers market and basically sustainable type of issues in our city. And so as far as being afraid of chickens, I guess I would use the example, there's many cities around that allow chickens. Fargo has an ordinance that allows chickens, and I work up in Fargo, and I guess I haven't heard any big controversy. I don't know if the chief, his brother's the police chief up there, but from what I understand, they haven't had any complaints about chickens. So St. Paul doesn't even license them, they allow you to have 6. So I guess in the answer to why are we doing an ordinance for 4 people would be, I commend the folks for coming forward, because to be honest, you could probably put the chickens in your backyard now and nobody would really know. You just raise them, and unless some neighbor complained about it, you wouldn't even know they're there. So, I guess I could be more, when I listen to Larry and Ron, I guess I could be more concerned about a fear of chickens and the disease if, as Mr. Jolson pointed out, and I wrote down earlier, that if you were also concerned about the diseases that all the other animals complain, if you're consistent about disease and the mess and all the stuff that goes along with what chickens have, then be concerned about all these other animals. And in fact, let's redo our animal ordinance and prohibit any animals in the city. So besides the ones that are licensed, as Mr. Josephson said, we got geese, ducks. I'm more worried about the coot crap that comes every fall. We got skunks, coyotes, squirrels, bunks, turtles. I mean, they're all in the deal. The other thing I hear is this concern about, and excuse me at the staff level, but I've heard some snide comments about going out to chase chickens. Well, let me tell you something. If a chicken gets loose and it's alive, because we got dogs, we got cats, we got skunks, we got coyotes, I got 2 eagles out by my house. If that chicken survives more than 12 hours out in the wild, then I think I want to get that hen and I want to breed that, because those are going to be some of the best damn eggs I'll ever eat. But barring that, and I say this sincerely and I'm not being facetious here, if after 12 hours that chicken's still alive, call me, I will get my 9-year-old grandson with his BB gun, and we will take care of that loose chicken that everybody's afraid of. So if you can't tell, I am strongly in favor of having chickens.
Further comments from the council?
I guess point of clarification, if you're looking in here, it's subdivision 6, item I. Sale of eggs are prohibited. Is that sale out of a residence? Can people raise chickens and sell at the farmer's market, or is that prohibited city limit wide?
It's prohibited.
Okay.
Well, they're selling them at the farmer's market.
We're not allowing commercial
Gotcha.
production of
Gotcha. That's what the definition is.
chicken
Okay.
products. as a
Thank you.
result of this.
Okay, thank you.
So the farmer's market's okay?
I think that the farmer's market, well, I mean, can people sell eggs at the farmer's market? Yes. Can they raise chickens in Detroit Lakes to sell eggs at the farmer's market? No.
Thank you.
Okay, so I know some of you feel strongly both ways, and some of you are going to be kind of in the middle, and it's just going to boil down to a vote, and we're giving first reading. Unless there's some additional comments, I'm going to call the vote here. We'll see where the chips fall here. Well, go ahead, yes, ma'am.
I was brought into this quite late.
Okay.
And there's always such a fear. The gentleman there had all these speakers from the region. But the CDC had a report out that the United States has 327.2 million people. And they have a report of only 1,300 cases of salmonella. And Minnesota has a population of 5.6 plus million. As of the end of August, we only had 22. And bird flu is spread by our ducks and geese and fowl and coming in contact with the feces or the feathers. And I don't think that's going to happen with our chickens at all.
Okay.
But we are the ones that are supposed to keep things sanitized. And if we get this, which I hope you guys will give us a chance. You can always say this isn't working out for our town. We're getting rid of it. Give your town a chance. There's 53 cities in this state that allow chickens.
There's over 80.
Over 80, she didn't tell me that. Over 80. There's only 99 million people, 9,900 cities in the state. So it's way above.
Okay. Well, thank you for your comment. We appreciate it. Further discussion.
I mean, I could add to that
Okay.
as well, as far as the disease aspect goes. And I'm sure you guys have received my numerous emails stating how much people die from dog bites and dog violence.
We
If
have.
you just look at the numbers, it's not comparable. Like, you can't really compare chickens to dogs as far as like safety. And as far as salmonella goes, every animal at the pet shop can spread salmonella. So, like, should we all just not have any animals? You know, and like Jerry said at the CDC meeting, people who own chickens take care of their chickens. This is a big project. It's not something that we don't take seriously. You can buy a dog. As long as you have a house, it's easy. Chickens, people are responsible. And I hope that you give us the chance to be responsible.
This is not going to be a cheap venture. Number one, we got to get by your ordinance and having things approved. Then you got to build or order one or redesign a shed you've got on your property now. That's going to take money. And you got fencing. And then you start with chicks. That starts adding up. And then you got to brooder them to keep them warm for a certain amount of time so they can go out in bullets and be in the yard. And not everybody is going to be flocking into town to put chickens on. I don't think many people have the background for it. To tell you the truth.
It's a very well-written ordinance. And I thank you for writing it so well.
Yeah, you've got everything covered. That if somebody starts moving up, you're either going to be eaten, and I don't want to be there. Plus, I love my chickens. I would like to have the chickens again. I'm going to be 72. I'd like to pass it down to my grandchildren and my great-grandchildren, and my little neighbor girl is so excited about it. We'll find out that chickens aren't chicken nuggets.
Okay. All right.
We are just asking, give us a chance. You got it in your hands. If things don't go right,
Well, in just a minute here, you're going to hear the result. Further comments? I think it's time to take the vote. I'll call for a roll call vote, please, and I'll start over on the left. Dan, I'm sorry. Dan?
No, I'll vote no.
Okay.
Aye.
Jay, you're yes?
Yes.
Natalie? You're a yes?
Yes.
Matt?
Well, yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, sorry.
Ron?
No.
Jamie?
You skipped Damon.
Yeah.
Or I'm sorry,
Dan.
I got out of order, I'm sorry,
Yes.
Dan. You're yes. Jamie?
Aye.
Bruce?
Yes.
It passes 7-2. And first reading will be given at the next city council meeting in December.
Second reading.
Or the second reading will be given. So it's not official yet. All right, is there any, I see other people are still here. Are there other items you'd like me to move on the agenda? Yes, ma'am. What item would it be? Or what's it about, or?
My more than 3 animals.
Oh, she's putting.
No, there's some exceptions on the
Yeah.
Public Works. What,
Are you Carrie or Christine?
Christine.
You're Christine?
I am.
So without objection, can we take item 6F? Bruce, could we take item 6F, please?
yes. Consideration to request made by Christine Hennis to have more than 2 animals at 610 Front Street West. The Public Works Committee reviewed this, recommends approval, and I so move.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to approve more than 2 animals at 610 Front Street for Christine Hennis. Discussion on the motion? All in favor of the motion, say aye. Aye. Opposed, motion carries.
Do you want me to do E right away on that anyway, as long as we're there?
Do what? I'm sorry.
Well, there's another request. I was just wondering if you want me to do it right away.
Well, I was going to see, anyone else got an item they want? Dave, do you have something? 4-H. 4-H?
I can wait till you guys have.
If I have another question, so I get like a letter or something saying,
You'll get your permit.
and you'll send it to me or what? And that's it, and do I reapply again?
Next year.
Next year?
She won't have to
She won't
reapply
have
next
to
year if
next
we
year.
pass the ordinance, so then you'll have to reapply.
But I don't have to reapply?
You have to
Well,
wait for Jan.
if one of them is spayed.
If they're sterile.
Vaccinated, whatever?
Spayed.
I'll be in,
Neutered, fixed, so they cannot have,
Babies.
Did you want to address that, Jamie?
Did you get your question answered from 7 people?
Thank you very much.
All right.
I will be, I'll.
We didn't want to get into the details of that.
So, without objection, I'm going to jump back to item in the public hearings, public hearing H, which is giving consideration to a resolution adopting the proposed changes to liquor license fees and amending section 210 of the city code, changing the liquor license fees for 2020. And Kelsey, do you want to preface this, and then I'll have Dan take it from there.
Mayor and council, following the recommendations from the budget committee meetings in the resolution, you'll see the new liquor license fees for 2020. I believe all the renewals that were sent out included the new fees. Just a question that
Dave, do you have questions or comment you'd like to make?
Yep.
And if you're going to make a comment, would you please give us name and address,
Yep,
please, for the
I will.
record? Okay.
My name's Dave Meyer. I own Sandbar here in Detroit Lakes. It's 1150 Randolph Road. If I could, I have a document I'd like to hand out to you.
You can.
I'll just hand it out to Chair. You guys want to- You might as well.
I think everybody has one.
So anyway, 4 years ago, I was here, and I had a document very similar to this. The only difference between this document and that one is I have Bemidji's liquor license fee on here for intoxicating liquor license, and I have Detroit Lakes is on here, which is ours. So the $4,000 for Detroit Lakes is what is proposed. It's right now, it's at $3,900. And what I'd like to state is that all of these license fees, Becker County, Frazee, Perham, Pelican Rapids, Otter Tail County, Fergus Falls, Holly, and Wadena, have not increased in that 4 years. And ours has gone up $400. So I don't know, and then when I talk, Ron Zeman is my alderman for the Sandbar area, and I talked to him this summer, and I had had some questions. I just wanted some, he actually helped out. He gave me some answers. One of the questions that I had was, what is this being based on as far as our fees, our rate of fee? And he told me that Bemidji was an example of a city that the council has used, or whoever did the study had used as an example for what our liquor license could look like, or the fee for our liquor license is. So the reason why I put Bemidji's fee on there, because now that is currently less than ours, which it has been now for 2 years. So my concern is that this is going to continue to raise every year, and I'm just hoping that there's an end point to this, because I think it's 8 years ago, this liquor license was $2,000, and now it'll be double that if it's approved tonight. So that's my concern, and I just wanted to make all of you aware that there are no other people in this area that are raising their liquor license fees. Fergus Falls is a larger town than us. They're at $2,500. Bemidji is the comparable town, which is actually larger than our population also, and they're at $3,780. So that's my concerns. I would hope that you guys would take that into consideration, because it's tough to run a business nowadays sometimes. And to be honest with you, there are 17 intoxicating liquor licenses in the city of Detroit Lakes right now, and that's $68,000 that is generated. I do know that the fees go directly towards what the licenses affect, and I don't have any numbers, so I don't know exactly what that study indicates, but as a regular person, that seems like a lot to me. And then that doesn't include the Sunday licenses also, which is set by the state. So anyway, that's my comments and concerns. So I just wanted to inform you, to show you that of what has happened in the past 4 years.
Dave, I want to apologize. I didn't realize you were here for that. I would have moved you up for...
No, that's fine. I have nothing else.
Did you like to go over a football game, though?
Oh, yeah. I did.
Thanks, Dave.
Yeah, you bet.
So this is a public hearing. Is there anyone else in the audience? Yes, ma'am. If you would, again, state your name and address for the record, please.
I'm Raina Tucker. I own the new restaurant Sapphire Sushi, Hibachi, and American Cuisine.
Right, okay.
It took a lot to renovate Country Kitchen from what it was to what it is now. And so when I see the bills come in, it's a little overwhelming. I have between 25 to 30 employees that I'm employing. And when I get the raises that come in from all the different bills, and then I see the liquor license might go up, it's just frustrating, because I want to give them, health insurance, and I can't afford it. So I guess I'm asking for this not to happen, so that I can get out of the hole I buried myself in when I bought the Country Kitchen. So that's all I have to say.
We appreciate that you put a business in there, though.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yep.
What, just for my information, what was the fee last year?
39.
39, so it's going up $100.
If I can say, the fee was $3,900 last year. In the last 5 years, it's gone up $100. Then there was a $500 jump, and then there was a period of a year where it didn't go up, and then the jump was from 2,000 to 3,000 8 years ago.
I know part of the history too, Dave, was years ago, we kind of were lax on keeping up with that fee, and we had to make a larger jump than had we been doing it incrementally each year, so that's part of it.
And I understand that, but now, what my point is we are more than the city that we're modeled after, so to speak. So that's my point. And we're still, if we don't do this increase, we're still more than that.
Okay, very good. I don't think anyone else is here for this, so I'll close the public hearing and discussion by the, well, Dan, why don't we get
Try to make a motion?
Motion on the table.
All right. Consideration to a resolution adopting the proposed changes to liquor license fees and amending section 210 of the city code, changing the liquor license fees for 2020. Liquor and Gambling Committee reviewed this at the meeting today and approved these changes, and I so move.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to approve the resolution adopting the proposed changes to the liquor license fees and amending Section 210 of the City Code, changing the liquor license fees for 2020. Discussion by the council?
As Dave Meyer said, I have visited with this, and, you know, we have fees, and I think the fees have to be fair. And I'm looking at this lady here that's just opened her new business, and I don't want a fee to be a burden where it could cause a business to go out of business, and yet she wants to be competitive to have wine and liquor in her store so she can compete with other people that are doing more volume. And I think there's a fine line there, and I think we have to be careful so that we don't get the fees. I'm surprised that we're more than Bemidji now. And I hope that we kind of keep people in mind like her and other small restaurants that had the food and the beverage, they want to have wine in order to compete, but sometimes these fees are out of line. It might be great for a business that's going unbelievably, that is nothing for them, but for smaller restaurants, I think it probably can be a plateau item where it can make or break their business too. So I think we have to be careful with that.
Okay, further discussion?
Mayor, just maybe address a question to Pam. So Dave made a point about the 68,000 with the 17 licenses, but we do an analysis every year, don't we? I mean, we have to justify that the cost that we have meet or exceed the fee we charge, correct? This is not just a revenue stream for the city. We're doing an analysis as far as the cost.
We do and we don't. We don't do an in-depth analysis, but when it comes to the liquor licenses, there are other things that flow into that, like the police. You know, we've got to be able to support the cost of the police department based on the calls that they have to the different, the various holders of the licenses. So, yes, we do and we don't.
If I may, oh, sorry.
Well, Dave first.
I have a comment on that, and I understand that is part of what the fee is associated with, but I also would say that there are police officers on duty all the time, and there are no more police officers on duty when they get a call to come to a bar or a restaurant that has a liquor license. Now, there might be other things affected by processing a person or whatever, I don't know. But I'm saying that probably, to me, would be one of those issues that isn't necessarily, it's a commonly used issue, but it doesn't seem to me like it would be a very strong, because they're already on duty, they're already getting paid, they're just doing their job. They're just doing their job here instead of over there.
And then with us not having Weed Fest next year, we get a little hiatus next year. And I mean, for me, I make all of my servers do tips training. And I've only had 2 calls. One was a gentleman dropped a bag of cocaine, and I got that off the street. And the second call, we did not even serve the gentleman. And that's all that happened. And you have to put it up to the owners to make sure that they're responsible with their employees to not overserve a customer.
Okay, further discussion by the council? Jamie?
I think her mentioned that they will have less revenue perhaps next year. Might be a reason to hold it at 3,900.
Okay.
With Weed Fest.
Any other discussion? Jay?
I'm going to vote for this because that's what we discussed in committee, but I do agree that this is, I think that if we're having this conversation again next year, I think there might be a few more proprietors showing up to discuss this. So thank you for coming in and voicing your opinion.
Further discussion?
I think this is something that we do look at every year, and if we look at it again next year, it might be a different case, and we can have that discussion then. I think, like Jay said, we did have this conversation at the committee level, and
I have one thing before. Would it be beneficial for us to go to your committee meeting ahead of time before would that change, maybe
yeah, that
influence your vote?
Yeah, I think, well, all the committee meetings are open to the public.
Yeah, no, I know they are.
And come and state your case and give the information.
I didn't realize that, I'm sorry.
Well, what are your wishes? We have a motion and a second on the table. If I call the question, we're going to adopt the new, if it's a pass, we'll adopt the new fees. Somebody could make an amended motion, or we can throw it back to the committee. Any thoughts there?
I'd like to amend the motion that we keep it where we had it this past year, $3,900.
Okay, is there a second to the amended motion?
Second.
Okay, you gotta tell me how we vote on this.
We have to vote on the amendment first.
Okay, so we've got an amended motion for $3,900. We'll vote on that first. All in favor of that motion, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, I'm gonna have to go through one by one. Dan?
No.
Jay?
I went against what I said that I was going to do, and I voted for leaving it where it was.
So you're a yes, and Natalie?
No, wait a minute. Is a yes for the 3,900?
Yes.
What you're voting on now is to amend the motion.
Yes.
To 3,900.
So whether you want to amend the motion, then you still have to vote on the, if it passes, you'll have to vote on the amended motion.
So
Do you, right now, a yes means you want to amend the motion?
To 3,900.
So you're a no then?
I'm a yes.
Clarification, are we just amending the 3,900 on the first?
I'm confused.
Because we've got,
That's what his motion was.
yeah, so we're only amending the first line of this from going 4,000 back to 3,900, and the rest of the fees that are going up are staying the same.
Yes.
You know, it shouldn't be this complicated, should it?
Yeah, I think it should be, but, okay, so you are, that's exactly the point. The amended, the motion, as I understand it, is to amend the existing motion to go for that one fee.
Yes.
Is that?
Yes.
Yes.
To 3,900, that's what I'm asking.
Yes.
The number is 3,900 that we're voting on right now.
Yes.
Yes.
So a yes vote means you want it at 3,900, a no vote means you want the original 4,000.
And just for the on-sale
Just for the
liquor
on-sale.
license.
Gotcha. That's, now I understand.
Okay, Natalie?
Yes to 3,900.
Okay, Matt?
Yes to 3,900.
Yes to
Madeline.
3,900.
Ron?
Yes, 3,900.
Dan?
No, because it's my vote.
Jamie?
Yes.
Bruce?
No.
So the amended motion passes. So now we have a motion on the table to change the,
No, you have a motion to approve all of the other free schedules
$3,900.
along with the 3,900, so.
does everybody understand that?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay, so all in favor of that motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
So it passes, and the fee will be $3,900. Thank you for coming, folks. Is there anyone else that I'm missing that has an item for the council tonight? I don't think so.
I'm
So
looking
we'll-
at opening up another restaurant 2 years here.
All right.
good for you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you.
Yep,
See, just a point here, I don't mean to belabor this, but if we're going to start comparing cities to cities, make sure that we compare the fact that some cities, like us, have a 2 a.m. closing, and there are cities, and I believe Bemidji is one of them, that has a 1 a.m. closing. That does make a difference in your policing costs. I just asked that for the budget committee next year to when they talk about this.
that's a good point. We do have quite a ways to go yet, so without objection, I'd like to take a 5-minute break, and then we'll resume in 5 minutes, so don't go too far. I will reconvene the city council meeting at this time, and I believe we're on public hearing E. So at this time, I'll open up a public hearing to give consideration to the proposed assessments for unpaid street, light fee, water, sewer, and stormwater charges. And I don't see anyone in the audience for this, so I will close the public hearing. Madeline?
Yes, the Finance Committee reviewed this afternoon, and we moved to adopt the assessment roll for unpaid streetlights, water, sewer, and stormwater charges.
Is there a second? Motion's been made and seconded to adopt the proposed assessments for unpaid utility bills. Discussion? All in favor of the motion, say aye. Aye. Opposed, the motion carries. At this time, I'll open a public hearing to give consideration to the proposed assessments for construction of curb gutter approaches and sidewalk improvements. for 2019. And again, I don't see anyone here, so that public hearing is closed. Madeline?
Once again, the Finance Committee reviewed this afternoon, and we move to adopt the assessment roll for construction of curb, gutter, approaches, and sidewalk improvements for the year 2019.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. At this time, I'll call a public hearing to order to give consideration to the proposed assessments for unpaid fire protection charges.
I think that falls to us once again.
And this public hearing is closed. Madeline?
We reviewed this afternoon, and the Finance Committee moves to adopt the assessment roll for unpaid fire protection charges for the year of 2019.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Discussion? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Dan, we are back to the Community Development Committee agenda.
Yes, sir. We're down to item 5B, which is just a discussion that we had. We don't have anything to bring forth to the council at this time.
Okay.
Item 5C is a resolution to approve the sponsorship for a transportation alternative projects grant as part of the Westlake Drive reconstruction and multi-use trail. CDC reviewed this sponsorship, recommended approval, and I so move.
Second.
The motion has been made and seconded to approve a resolution approving the sponsorship for a transportation alternatives projects grant for the Westlake Drive reconstruction and multi-use trail, North Shore Drive to Legion Road. Discussion on the motion? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Item D, Your Honor, then is a resolution relating to the previous item, which is approving a resolution to maintain that trail. It's technically maintaining facility, but it's maintaining that trail. Again, the CDC reviewed this, recommended approval, and I so move.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to approve a resolution approving, I don't know if this is worded right, maintain facility for a transportation alternative project. Again, Westlake Drive reconstruction and multi-use trail, North Shore Drive to Legion Road. Discussion on the motion?
I guess just one comment quickly. It's, we're applying for these grant funds for the future. It's probably 3, 4, or 5 years down the road or greater, but we need to get out there and get these grant funds in place prior to any of those projects, so thinking ahead here.
So is this grant for the maintenance of the trail? Is that how I read this?
This grant is for construction of the trail, and we're estimating it at $515,000.
But item D is to
Item D is
agree that we're going
to agree to maintain the trail
Yeah.
that's been constructed with the grant funds.
All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries.
Item E, Your Honor, is denying, a resolution to deny proposed rezoning of an area R4 limited multifamily residential at 1106 to 1110 Westlake Drive. Again, the CDC reviewed this, recommended denying this rezoning. This was also denied by the Planning Commission, and so I so move.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to deny a rezoning of an area at 1106 to 1110 Westlake Drive. Discussion?
I will abstain from E and F.
Okay. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries with the Alderman Sherman abstaining.
Yep. And item F relates to that. It would be the conditional use permit to allow conversion of residential properties to a 21-unit planned unit development in the Shoreland District at 1106 to 1110 Westlake Drive. Again, CDC reviewed this, recommended denying the conditional use permit. That also happened at the Planning Commission meeting, and I so move.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to deny the conditional use permit request for 1106 to 1110 Westlake Drive. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And the motion carries with Alderman Sherman again abstaining.
Item G, Your Honor, is a resolution to deny a variance to allow a 13-foot front yard setback and a 5-foot side yard setback to build a home at 215 Shorewood Drive. CDC reviewed this, recommends denying it. Also, again, based on Planning Commission recommendation, and I so move.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to deny a variance at 215 Shorewood Drive. Discussion on the motion? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
And item H is a recommendation, it's a resolution approving the final plat of the Foltz Acres First Edition. CDC reviewed this, recommended approval, and I so move.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded to approve a resolution approving the final plat of Foltz Acres First Edition. Discussion? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you, Your Honor. That's all I have.
Public Works, Bruce.
Thank you, Your Honor. Item A was basically just discussion to let the council know all we're doing is discussion there. There's been some safety concerns that were raised about the 11th Avenue school zone. Item B is also was a discussion with our city engineer about proposed improvements on Washington Avenue, basically from Willow down to North Shore Drive. So we had some good discussion on that. If any council people want to have any further information on that, please get a hold of John Pratt. We approved C already. Item D, consideration the issue of final payment to Saline Brothers for the County Road 131 Street and utility improvements. Public Works reviewed this and recommends approval of the final payment, and I so move.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded to approve the final payment to Saline Brothers for the County Road 131 improvements. Discussion of the motion. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries.
Okay, and then the item E we did not do. That's a consideration request made by Kerry Erickson to have more than 2 animals at 616 Front Street. Again, this would be 2 dogs and a cat, as opposed to the other one was 1 dog and 2 cats. So Public Works reviewed this, recommends approval, and I so move.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to approve the request made by Kerry Erickson to have more than 2 animals at 616 Front Street. Discussion? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries.
Item G is consideration of resolution amending the capital improvements plan for Long Lake Annexation Phase 5. Again, if you remember last month, we had alerted you as a council to the fact that the Public Works is going to recommend pushing this out at least 5 years, so the resolution addresses that. Public Works recommends approval, and I so move.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded to amend our capital improvement plan for the Long Lake Annexation Phase 5 utility project. Discussion?
Mayor, I just would point out, I think this is an example, and Administrator mentioned this when the folks from Willow Springs were in. It's an example where we have annexed the property, but again, based on discussion with the owner, or with the property owners out there in conjunction with what the city has going on, there wasn't an immediate need for everybody to say we want utility improvements. So it's an example where they're in the city, they're going to continue to get city services, just not the sewer water.
Right. Okay.
Well, I've got a comment on that, though. The big difference from this project to Willow Springs, though, is this project at Long Lake, there aren't enough residents out there to pay for this project. It doesn't have the population, it's a very long distance, and for that reason, we don't have enough people that, if you divide it by the people that are going to use it, it'd be very, very high. We do have the residents out at Willow Springs, but, I think it's 2 different things, but I hope that we can work out a plan for people like on Long Lakes to someday get those people in, but until we get more people moving out there so we can be able to afford to put this stuff in, otherwise it's going to come back on the current taxpayers in Detroit Lakes to subsidize that. I don't think that's correct when the people in town have to subsidize some of these annexations.
Further discussion? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries.
Item H is a recommendation that we purchase a new heater for the pavilion. The Public Works Committee recommends approval, and I so move.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to approve a purchase of a new heater for the pavilion. Discussion on the motion? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Just one final thing I'd make a comment on is I was out of town last week, and I opened the paper on Sunday when I got back, the local paper that I read religiously, Vicki, and I saw an article that basically says, I thought we as a city and the county were going to talk together about a joint public works building. We had a meeting set up on the 21st to do that. And so it was a little bit of a surprise to me to find out that the county's already decided to move ahead without consultation with us. I shared my frustration on that with a couple of county commissioners. But be that as it may, we did have some discussion, good discussion at Public Works about our building, and there are some things that we can share in terms of the site preparation, stormwater and whatever with the county, and the staff is going to work on that with county staff to do that. But we are now in the planning stages to move ahead then with our own Public Works building for the city. There would not be a joint facilities with the county, and so if anybody has a comment on that, feel free to speak up, but otherwise we did have that discussion, Mayor.
So now that that has occurred, do we have a sort of a year that we're thinking of doing this? Or are we going to have to kind of go back to the drawing board?
I heard 2022.
Yeah, I think our last plan was around that 21, 22, maybe 21.
Okay, very good.
But even if there's some site preparation, if the county's moving ahead next year, we could still do site preparation with them, and some of that there would be some cost savings there we should consider. So.
Yeah, right.
That's all we had, Your Honor.
Okey-doke. We'll go to the Finance Committee. Madeline?
Item A was consideration to a donation request. It was just for discussion purposes only. We'll see where that goes. Consideration to a resolution adopting authorization to execute the Minnesota Department of Transportation grant agreement for airport improvements and land acquisition. Kelsey, do you need anything or to comment on anything, or do we just need to grant that authorization?
Basically, the authorization just allows us to execute the grant that's also in the packet. This is our large federal grant and smaller state portion grant for phase 3 of the
Finance Committee moves to grant authorization to execute that.
I'll second it.
Motion's been made and seconded to adopt a resolution authorizing or adopting authorization to execute the Minnesota Department of Transportation grant agreement for the airport improvements. Discussion? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the motion carries. Madeline, if I could just interrupt, Kelsey, can you just kind of tell us the remaining timeline on the airport reconstruction project and the taxiway?
Sure. Mayor and council, so phase 2 of the runway project is pretty much completed. Phase 2 basically included the addition to the south end of the runway, a lot of the site prep around the existing runway. So phase 3 is the big last project. This is the one that ties it all together. So this basically ends up being the full reconstruction of the existing runway, tying into the new south part. The timing of that is probably start next May. The contractor has a 2-month window to basically get the runway reopened. So the goal would be basically by August 1st of next year to be reopened. We have the approach lighting system, the filling of the wastewater ponds. Those will probably, the approach light system will probably occur next summer. The filling of the wastewater ponds will occur whenever we can. But really next year is going to be the biggest part of the project with the new construction of the new runway tying into the south part and reopening by August 1st.
Will it be done then next August, or is there still miscellaneous things that
There's
happen?
miscellaneous stuff. Actually will bleed into the next year again, filling of wastewater ponds. Hopefully we get those done next year. If they carry over to 21, that's not the end of the world. We have perimeter fencing we still have to do. That'll probably be a 21 project. So there'll still be some carryover things to 21.
But as of August 1st, the plan is to have it open for aircraft to come in on the new longer runway.
Yep, the new 5,200
feet
runway with parallel taxiway, approach lighting system.
So when they're doing that before August 1st, no aircraft can come in at all, or can they land in the grass runway?
The grass runway will be open.
So we could still get UPS planes in here on the grass runway, right? Or doesn't that work? I don't know.
Oh, boy.
But there are a lot, lots of things that happen here that we don't even think about it. So anyway, thank you for that. Madeline?
And we're back to item C, consideration for demolition proposals for 813 Summit Avenue and 415 State Street to include removal and disposal of the structures, removal of foundations and backfilling, as well as appropriate asbestos removal. As you saw, if you checked it out, the bid will go to Haug. And just so that everybody's aware, the 813 Summit Avenue costs will be figured into the new police department costs, and 415 State Street is our portion of what's going to feed into the Becker County Museum.
So that'll be food and beverage tax.
And that's food and beverage tax, yes.
And do you have a motion?
Yes, there's a motion to accept the bid from Haug.
Okay. Motion's been made and seconded to accept the low bid from Haug to demolish 813 Summit Avenue and 415 State Street. Discussion? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the motion carries. Any other finance? We're good. We'll go to the Public Safety Committee. Ron?
Okay, item 8A, consideration to a resolution establish an escrow account to receive a portion of insurance settlement proceeds from claim on real property located in the city that is damaged by fire or an explosion. And Kelsey, maybe you want to explain this a little bit?
Yeah, Mayor and Council, state statute allows us to basically set up an escrow for fire damaged properties to ensure that the properties are basically cleaned up. Once you approve a resolution, you get, the commissioner puts you on a list so insurance agents can verify that the city participates in the program. The good news is we're already on that list, but we couldn't find any record of the actual resolution. So in some ways this is kind of a cleanup of that, by adopting the resolution, we have the program in place and the provisions of setting up the escrow.
So the insurance company is required by state statute to remit the compensation for the homeowner to us, and we hold it in escrow, or just a portion of it?
It's a portion of it.
Okay.
And then we release it either upon cleanup or statute also allows upon execution of the contract with the contractor.
Okay, the committee recommends, and I so move.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to adopt a resolution establishing an escrow account to hold insurance settlement proceeds on properties damaged by fire or explosion in the city. Discussion? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Ron, anything else on the
Nothing, Your
public
Honor.
safety? Okay, we'll go to the Liquor Gambling Control Committee. Dan?
Item A is consideration to a request sponsorship for the Polar Fest 2020. Community, or the Liquor and Gambling Committee looked at this, recommends $500 for this sponsorship, and I so move.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to donate $500 for the Polar Fest from the Liquor Fund. Discussion on the motion? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Anything else, Dan?
Nothing more.
Okay, we've got a couple of Public Utilities Commission items, so I'll call on Madeline for those.
Yes, the council needs to approve the new 2020 water and sewer rates. These rates were established by a study that was done, and advance warning has been given to our citizenry. So I would move that we approve the rates.
Second it.
Okay, the motion's been made and seconded to approve the 2020 water and sewer rates. So just for clarification, Renell, did we raise the rates a little bit a couple of years ago, and then now they're going up a little more now? Is this all reflecting the new wastewater treatment plant?
Yes, for the wastewater rate, it'll be the last step on the commercial industrial count that was
Okay.
prescribed in 2017. And then about an 8% average for the water customers that was prescribed in the 2018 cost service and rate study for the water fund.
So this had been laid out several years ago in steps, right?
That is correct.
Okay. Did we have a motion? We did, didn't we?
We did.
Yes, motion
Is there
second.
any further discussion? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries.
We also need to approve the 2020 electric rates. Once again, this is a result of a study that was done in the past, and I so move that we approve these rates.
Second it.
Motion's been made and seconded to approve the 2020 electric rates. And again, if I could just ask Renell, What amount of increase does this represent roughly in a percentage?
There's actually no increase in the electric rates to the electric customers.
Okay.
This is a change in the PURPA rate, and it's also includes a rate for thermal energy storage for the community center, since it's under low control, and then the Bright Energy Choices rate for people who want to go 100% carbon-free or renewable in 2020.
Thank you. Further discussion? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries.
And the last item under the Public Utilities Commission is we are moving toward, I guess we'd call them smart meters, so that we don't have to have meter readers walking from house to house. And this is a move to accept a bid from Eaton Energy to purchase AMI utility meters for $1,754,806. And the Public Utilities Commission has spent some time on this, and we move to accept that bid.
Seconded.
Motion's been made and seconded to accept a bid from Eaton Energy for new utility meters in the amount of $1,700,000. Discussion?
When will this all happen? We'll get the new meters and installation.
Our plan is to start doing installation the end of the first quarter or beginning of second quarter of 2020. We anticipate to take probably 18 months, maybe 24 months to do the total change-up.
So just out of curiosity, does it read right into your offices, or does somebody still have to come by the house and wave a chip over the house or something? Or
We'll put collectors out, we'll gather that data, it'll run through the head-end system, come right into the office, we'll bill directly from the office.
Okay.
And it's a neat system. More to come.
So does that require any residential conversion or anything like that, Bruno?
No, it all happens within the meter.
Further discussion?
What happens to the horsepower, the manpower that you're currently using? Obviously there might be some vacancies, or there might be some people that are currently reading the meters that are going to be looking for something else to do. Do we have any plan?
We do. We're going to keep that person in-house. We'll give him new job duties, and we've got plenty of work for that person to transition to and migrate to.
Nice.
Just because you read automatic meters doesn't mean that meter work goes away.
Nice.
Plus they'll be warmer, Jay.
Hopefully he gets a treadmill.
Further discussion?
Plus I won't have to shovel out to my meter.
I was just going to say that.
You
Now
do
we won't
that?
have to worry about that.
And we need to vote, I believe, so all in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries.
Mayor, one quick thing before we leave public utility. I know sometimes when we're doing in December, we have that 6 o'clock timeline to do the budget thing.
Oh, yeah.
I'm just wondering, Vernell, if you're going to be here in December, if we could be prepared for maybe a 5-minute update on the wastewater plant. Not tonight, but...
I am not. I will not be here to December meeting.
Okay.
January?
Yes, sir.
We've got a couple of administrative items to take care of. One is to approve a resolution designating the 2020 polling locations for the city of Detroit Lakes. So I would entertain a motion approving that resolution.
So moved.
Second.
Motion's been made and second, approving the 2020 polling locations for the city of Detroit Lakes. Discussion? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Also, we need to consider approving a appointment of the Assistant Attorney Patrick Bakken for the city of Detroit Lakes. So that must mean Patrick has passed the bar exam and he's ready to go.
I'm pleased to tell you that Patrick passed the bar exam. He's licensed. He started working for us a little while ago, and effective as of November 1st, he's doing city prosecution work or assisting with that. Pat is the son of Paul Charbakken, who owned the Detroit Paint and Glass, and so we're happy to have him on board, and I'd like him to be designated as an assistant city attorney so that when he goes to court and tells the judge that, he's telling the truth.
Are you going to tell him next year, even though it's deer hunting, he's got to be here?
I thought I'd maybe bring him next week, because it is deer hunting, and that's his, yeah. Anyway.
So I would entertain a motion to...
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to appoint Patrick Bakken as the Assistant City Attorney. Discussion? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. I would like to appoint Dan Wenner to the Planning Commission, reappoint Bruce Imholt to the Planning Commission, and appoint Natalie Bly to the Detroit Lakes Community and Cultural Center Board. So I could do it in one motion if you so desire.
So moved.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to appoint Dan and Bruce to the Planning Commission and Natalie to the Community Center Board. Discussion? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Couple announcements. There will be a public discussion, as Bruce mentioned, at our December meeting at 6:01 PM regarding the 2020 budget and levy, and that's our truth in taxation hearing. The holiday train that comes every year from the Canadian Pacific Railroad is going to be here on Friday, December 13th at 2:30. That's always a fun event. Also, the city council dates for 2020 are listed on the last page of the agenda. Any additional items from the city staff? I didn't think this meeting was that long. You thought it might be 9 o'clock, but we did pretty good. Bruce, anything else?
Well, Mayor, I'd like to congratulate you on receiving the Distinguished Service Award from the Lakes Area Realtors. The well-deserved reward. You've been very active in the community. Appreciate that. Congratulations.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Okay. Rod?
Hey, it's the month of November, it's Thanksgiving time, and I want to wish everybody a happy Thanksgiving. I hope you have a good time with all your families.
Thank you. Madeline?
Nothing.
Matt?
No, sir.
Natalie?
No.
Jay?
No, sir.
Dan?
Nothing else, Your Honor.
The business of this council has come to a conclusion. The meeting's adjourned.